When I called her, I said to Sheena, have you seen Nolan? He's missing. No one has seen him. No one has talked to him. The boys were actually with her sons. So they opened up their Snapchat because a lot of the kids do have their locations where they're tracking one another. So one of the boys says, well, it's showing that, I can't exactly remember what his location was showing, but my Life 360 location was showing something completely different. It was actually showing that his phone was like he was on land. And so we ended up, she received the phone from that parent, and then we met up where his car was, which was at a separate location.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yahweh, we come before you on your day, Father, asking you, Father, to strengthen the family of Nolan Wells through this trial. Strengthen the community during this trial. And Father, we ask that you allow the truth to be revealed. Father, we ask for vengeance against our enemies. Our enemies have hunted our steps. Our enemies have done evil to us in secret. Our enemies have lynched us and called it suicides. Father, we cry out unto you, Father, as you have commanded. Father, we ask for judgment.
Fight that took place on the island, allegedly. There was a boat with majority black folks on it, got in a fight with a boat with some white boys on it. They got in a fight on the land, not in the water, allegedly. Now, the girl, Katie, allegedly, the boat she was on and the boat that Nolan came on, they were both parked side by side. Now, allegedly, Katie's family came and picked her up and took her home. Now, the story is being told that the boat took on water and they told Nolan that they about to bounce because the boat taking on the water and they need to get the boat towed out the area. Allegedly, Nolan told them that he was going to stay there with the girl, so the boat got towed away. But allegedly, no one ever seen the boat get towed away. People seen them leave. Now, allegedly, the boat is owned by somebody else, but the boat ended up at Wyatt's house. While the boat is at Wyatt's house, they got his phone, Nolan Wells' phone. They did not want to give the family back Nolan's phone.
An 18-year-old goes out on a boat with his friends to celebrate the 4th of July. 6 days later, Colin Kaepernick is paying for his second autopsy. Tyler Perry is paying for his funeral. Al Sharpton is standing next to his parents in New York City. And the sheriff still can't tell them one simple thing: how their son died. That gap between teenager drowns on a boat trip and national civil rights leaders show up at a press conference is the whole story tonight. Something happened in the hours after Nolan Wells was left behind on a remote island, and 3 weeks later, nobody outside a small circle knows what it was. Before we go further, nobody you're about to hear about has been arrested. Nobody has been charged with a crime. Everything here is what's been reported, what families and friends have said on camera, and what's still just a question mark. Keep that in your mind the whole way through, because it matters. Let's start at the beginning. His name was Nolan Xavier Wells, 18 years old, out of Ocean Springs, Mississippi. A wide receiver, first at Ocean Springs High School, then at Southwest Mississippi Community College. His coach called him a quiet leader, the kind of kid who led by doing, not talking. On July 3rd, the night before everything changed, he cooked his parents' dinner, salmon. Then he left to spend the night at a friend's house, ready for one last trip before football camp started. On July 4th, he and a group of friends, mostly white, with Nolan the only black member of the group, took a boat out to Horn Island. If you don't know it, Horn Island is a barrier island about 8 to 10 miles off the Mississippi coast. No bridge, no cell towers, no lifeguards. You get there by private boat, and that's it. Nolan was last seen alive around 3 p.m. His friends left the island around 4:30 p.m. Nolan didn't go with them. According to the group, he chose to stay behind. And here's the first crack in the story, because two different people gave two different reasons for that. A young woman Nolan had been talking to on the island told investigators he said he was heading back to get on the boat with the guys. The guys say Nolan told them he was staying behind to talk to her. Those two things cannot both be true. Family attorney Ben Crump has called it exactly that, a contradiction. Someone's memory is wrong, or someone isn't being fully honest, and right now, nobody outside the investigation knows which. Here's where it gets hard to sit with. Around 11 p.m., one of Nolan's friends called the U.S. Coast Guard to report him unaccounted for. The Coast Guard decided the situation didn't require a response. They didn't deploy. An 18-year-old, alone, at night, on an island you can only reach by boat, and the agency built for exactly that kind of call didn't act. It took his mother, Christine Wansley, contacting the Jackson County Sheriff's Office around midnight to actually get a search moving. 9 hours passed between last seen and someone with authority finally doing something. By sunrise, it had turned into a full multi-agency search. State Marine Resources, the National Park Service, and United Cajun Navy, a volunteer search and rescue group that shows up when the official response feels too slow. On Monday, July 6th, 2 days after he went missing, a National Park Service ranger found a body in the water off the northwest tip of Horn Island. Tuesday, the coroner confirmed through dental records it was Nolan. That same day, the state medical examiner performed an autopsy, and even after that, officials couldn't say how he died. They were waiting on toxicology. They said it could take weeks. If there's one detail that's kept this case alive online more than any other, it's this. Nolan's phone did not come back to his family through the police. It came back through his mother's own tracking. Christine used a location app to follow the phone, and it showed it moving, back toward land, hours after her son was supposedly still on the island. She called one of the boys who'd been on the trip. He told her Nolan hadn't come back with them. A friend's mother, Tashima Hands, eventually tracked the phone through Snapchat to a house where a group of people were gathered and retrieved it for the family. Once Christine had the phone in hand, she says it felt too clean. No saved photos, no saved videos on Snapchat from that entire day. And by everyone's account, Nolan documented everything. "I know my child well," she told CNN. "If he has a phone out all the time at home, he's definitely going to have it out when he's with his friends." That's not proof of anything on its own. Snapchat content disappears on its own after roughly 24 hours, unless someone saves it. So an empty account can have an innocent explanation. But it's also the exact kind of gap that makes a family stop trusting the official version of events and start building their own. One retired Mississippi judge, speaking publicly as a legal commentator, not as part of the investigation, argued that based on the phone alone, if presented with an affidavit, he'd have signed an arrest warrant for theft of Nolan's property. That's his personal legal opinion. It is not a charge that has actually been filed by prosecutors. Then there's the video everyone's been freeze-framing. It was filmed from a boat, panning across a crowded stretch of Horn Island shoreline on a holiday weekend. Somewhere in the audio, there's an argument. Ben Crump says a male voice on that clip can be heard saying, "Give me my freaking phone. What are you doing?" And his team believes that voice belongs to Nolan. But here's the part that doesn't get repeated enough. At least one friend who was there has pushed back on that directly. Trace's Tin Shepard told Good Morning America the yelling in that clip is him, not Nolan. And separately, other friends close to Nolan have said the audio sounds too clear, too close, to have come from a boat that far offshore, meaning it may not even be physically possible for that voice to be Nolan's. So you've got the family's legal team hearing one thing, and people who actually knew Nolan's voice hearing something else. Neither claim has been confirmed by an independent audio analysis. The sheriff's office has specifically asked the public for the original, unedited version of that video, because every copy that's been reshared online for weeks has almost certainly lost quality along the way. One name that's come up more than most, Ashley Cole. She's the mother of one of the boys on the trip, and she's also a sitting Jackson County judge. Cole posted publicly early on to explain her son's account. The group left around 4:30 p.m. because their boat had engine trouble, specifically a bilge pump issue, and that Nolan made his own decision to stay behind and come back later with someone else. She also said she deactivated her Facebook after photos of her minor children started circulating online, something she said had nothing to do with hiding anything. Is a specific mechanical detail, like a failing bilge pump, the kind of thing people usually just invent? Probably not. It's the kind of claim that's actually checkable. Has it been independently verified? Not that's been made public. Meanwhile, some of the other teens on that trip have hired lawyers and gone private on social media. On its own, that's not suspicious. It's often just what any lawyer tells a client who's about to become a central witness in a national story. But combined with reports that several young people who were on that beach are still reluctant to talk to investigators or the press at all, it's made this case genuinely harder to untangle. Fear of the spotlight and guilt can look identical from the outside, and right now there's no way to know which one is driving the silence. By the second week, this stopped being a local Mississippi story. Ben Crump signed on as the family's attorney. Colin Kaepernick helped fund a second, independent autopsy in Washington, D.C., done specifically by a doctor with no ties to Mississippi law enforcement because the family said, plainly, it is not adding up. Tyler Perry offered to cover funeral costs. Al Sharpton stood with the family at a press conference in Harlem and said the quiet part out loud. We're not bringing in race, but we're not discounting race either, because we don't know what it is. Nolan's mother, in the most quoted line from that week, said it simplest. This is not how I wanted the world to meet my son. Their GoFundMe has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, a number that reflects how far this traveled, not just what one town felt. But it's worth hearing the other side of this too, because responsible telling includes it. CNN law enforcement analyst Charles Ramsey, who ran police departments in both Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., has said that, procedurally, nothing about the pace of this investigation is actually unusual. Waiting weeks on toxicology is normal. What's unusual, in his words, is the sheer amount of national attention the case has pulled.
Know the truth.
Yes, sir, know the truth.
They can't lie to you.
They can't lie to you.
Hey, Nolan Wells.
That doesn't settle anything. It's one more perspective in a case that has plenty of them. Here's the update the internet hasn't fully caught up to yet. As of this week, Sheriff John Ledbetter confirmed his department has now conducted witness interviews, is coordinating with the FBI, and says public tips have moved the case forward in a real way. He's also said clearly, this will not be rushed, and his office is now working directly with the district attorney. Jackson County DA Angel Myers McElrath is meeting with Nolan's parents this week. Her office says once the sheriff's investigation is complete, the case will go to a grand jury, the process that decides whether anyone is formally charged. That's a real step forward. It is also not a conclusion. As of right now, no cause of death has been released. No manner of death has been released. No arrests have been made. No one has been charged with anything. The independent autopsy from Washington, D.C. has faced delays. The state's toxicology report is still pending. Everything driving this story, the phone, the video, the contradictions, the silence from some of the teens who were there, is still circling a center that's empty. Whatever the toxicology report says, whatever the second autopsy finds, whatever investigators eventually piece together from that beach, none of it changes the fact that a family is planning a funeral instead of a 19th birthday that was supposed to happen next month. Nolan Wells was, by every single account from people who actually knew him, his coach, his teammates, his own parents, someone who never met a stranger. Someone who wanted everyone around him to feel like they belonged. His mother said it best. We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home. That's it. That's the ask. Not a verdict. Not a name. Just the truth. We'll be back the moment there's real movement, an autopsy result, a forensic finding, an actual break. Until then, that's exactly where this case stands. Subscribe so you're the first to know when it does.